5:17 a.m., the sky over Bryansk lit up with dozens of drones and missiles moving as one. 40 kamikaze FPVs, 16 armed UAVs, and high-speed cruise missiles ripped through radar nets before defenders even knew what hit them. But here's the question. Was this Poland's rehearsal for striking far deeper into Russian territory, or a one-time raid to pull down a nerve center? Stay with me because the answer could define how modern wars are fought from Moscow to Kiev and beyond.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said before he'll consider peace talks, Russia must meet one condition.
Stop shelling us, stop killing civilians.
It wants to continue to brutalize the Ukrainian people, wants to continue to shell their cities and towns.
In the last 12 months, Russia has killed tens of thousands of Ukrainian men, women, and children.
Uprooted more than 13 million people from their homes, bombed more than 700 hospitals, and yet the spirit of the Ukrainians remains unbroken. If anything, it's stronger than ever.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. Costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. What if dozens of drones, missiles, and ground robots all moved like pieces of one machine against Russia's air defenses? That is exactly what unfolded in the dark hours just after 5 in the morning, when Poland's strike lit the skies and tore into one of the most defended zones on the Russian frontier. At first glance, it looked like another drone raid.
Ukraine and Russia are exchanging fire on multiple fronts. Bridges are being destroyed, cities are burning, and oil depots are under attack.
All right, in other news, Russia has conducted fresh strikes on Ukraine's Zaporizhia region. Ukraine says Russian forces carried out 567 attacks over the last 24 hours.
At least 7 people were injured in a missile strike, while 2 others were hospitalized, and 23 private homes, 12 apartment buildings, and a post office suffered damage.
But the closer you study the timeline and layers, the clearer it becomes. This was something closer to a rehearsal for 21st century combined arms warfare. At 5:17 a.m., the first wave was airborne. Not a random scatter of drones, but a synchronized package stitched together to move with purpose. Kamikaze FPVs swarmed forward like locusts, their only role to dive into radar dishes and exposed launchers. Seconds behind them came heavier UAVs armed for longer strikes, moving in loose arcs to spread the defenders' fire. And along the edge of the radar horizon, several cruise missiles tracked their way in, hugging terrain to vanish until the last possible moment. Russia expected a blunt hammer of missiles. What they faced instead was a spear point built of multiple parts, each time to fit together like teeth on a gear. Russian operators reached for their consoles expecting one task: intercept missiles at range. But the assault didn't arrive in a simple wave. Each layer forced a different reaction. The FPV swarm broke concentration, the UAVs dragged firepower across the sky, and then the cruise missiles forced high-value systems to reveal themselves. Heat sensors saw overlaps, radars tangled with ghost signals, and suddenly control became chaos. That confusion was not a side effect, it was the design.
Biggest Russian drone and missile attack of the war. Ukraine says Moscow fired 550 drones and 11 missiles overnight.
To Russia launching a massive aerial assault against Ukraine, the biggest since the invasion more than 3 years ago.
Rescue workers say 1 person died and 26 were injured.
Meanwhile, something stranger was happening on the ground. Along the access roads leading to air defense convoys, small tracked robots began inching forward. They carried shaped charges, not in large payloads, but just enough to cripple wheels or shred a radar mast. These bomb robots were not expected by the defenders, and their slow grind under fire looked almost absurd. Yet everyone that detonated inside a convoy created minutes of paralysis. Trucks stalled, crews trying to secure vehicles, operators pulled away from their screens. In a battle measured in seconds, 10 minutes of disruption is a lifetime. Overhead, another layer pressed in. Electronic warfare drones orbited in a 12-mile bubble, spraying noise across bands that radars and tracking systems lived on. Guidance beams flickered and snapped. Missiles steered astray. Even ground communications distorted into static. The longer they stayed overhead, the wider the blackout grew, until entire batteries were fighting blind. Drones that cost a fraction of a missile were silencing equipment worth tens of millions. Polish gunships entered once the skies fractured. They didn't go hunting armor in cities or columns on highways. Their role was simple and brutal: pour suppressive fire along marked corridors. Each pass was timed with advancing ground units, cutting trenches and creating windows for special teams to move under. These teams carried more drones, more charges, and above all, the precision knowledge of which radar truck or launcher to hit first. Instead of spreading damage thin, they concentrated it, taking down critical nodes one after the other. Behind this chaos sat command posts operating from Rosomak platforms. These were not static headquarters. They shifted on roads, updated targeting live, and fed new objectives to the swarm in real time. One node was destroyed, the package rerouted, adjusting missile vectors and drone targets without pause. That ability to regroup mid-strike turned what could have been a quick raid into something larger, a sustained dismantling of the defense grid. The heart of the operation was not any single weapon or vehicle. It was the way each piece reinforced the next. Drones shielded missiles. Jam signals created blind zones. Robots exploited the gaps. Gunships carved corridors. And the command layer stitched it all into one living system. Rather than smashing through a wall, Poland was unbinding the wall itself, brick by brick, until the entire defense belt sagged and collapsed. This is the story of how a strike can be more than an attack. It was a template, multiple domains moving in one rhythm, each making the other stronger. That raises a harder question. Was this assault an isolated blow, or the prototype for something aimed far deeper at targets like Moscow itself? The strike at Bryansk proved a hard truth. Modern wars may be decided not by how many guns or missiles a side holds, but by how precisely those weapons are choreographed. Synchronization now outweighs scale. Intelligence capture, live targeting, and precision drone swarms can dismantle defenses once thought untouchable. So here's the question. If Poland can strip down a fortified air defense node piece by piece, what would happen if the same method pressed against Moscow's control towers? Comment your choice below. Subscribe and join a community that studies these realities of modern conflict and the future of drone-driven warfare.